Jim from Auto Van Can, and today we're going to be doing a valve lash adjustment on the Cummins generator. It's a 5.5 Onan. It's a Onan commercial power unit. It's a 5.5 kilowatt. It's 5500. The valve lash adjustment will be the same for the non-commercial version as well. So today we're going to be breaking into this unit here and adjusting the valves. Happy days. Here's a closer look at the Onan, Cummins Onan commercial mobile power unit. It's an electronic fuel injected 5500 model, which indicates that it's the 5.5 kilowatt. There's several different variations of this unit. I don't know all the ins and outs of all the different models that they have, but this is the unit that I have. You can start by seeing with this cover here. This is an important cover. This cover, whenever you run the generator, this cover needs to be on. So you can see by the twist lock, you can pop it undone. Because what happens for cooling is this unit has a fan on it to blow the air over the motor, and if this cover is not on it, you won't have sufficient cooling of the generator. Okay, shall we crack on, shall we? Let's start some disassembly. As you can see, one cover is nice and easy to get to for the valve covers, and it's these covers that you want to take off to do your valve lash. And I believe the valve lash is supposed to be periodically replaced, going from the top of my head around every 1100 hours. My unit is around 1200 hours. So let's pop off the air filter case. As you can see, this filter is still good. This is a Wix filter I have used. So we're going to go ahead and start removing some 10mm screws. My big old fuel filter's in the way, kind of a little bit. There we go. This is the airbox assembly that's out now. It's got a nice little gasket there. We'll try and keep that clean. And this is the air induction pipe into the airbox from below. And now we can see we have access to the other side, the other valve cover. So left cylinder, as you see here, is cylinder 1. This is cylinder 2. We also, for this job, we've got to remove the spark plugs. So you've got one on this side around the corner. We've got another one right over here. So as you can see, we've disconnected the boots, the HT leads from the spark plugs. One's right here on this side, and the other one is around this corner too. So let's get the spark plugs removed and take off these valve covers too. To remove these spark plugs, you will need a 13/16 spark plug socket. I'm just going to stick this socket on a wrench. Now this time round I won't be replacing the spark plugs. There is a different torque spec for spark plugs that have been reused, and it's usually 2 to 3 foot-pounds less. than what the manufacturer states for a spark plug that has been used. And the reason why I'm not replacing the spark plugs this time is because they only have 50 hours on them. There we go, there's one spark plug. As you can see, it's in pretty good condition. Now it is a pretty tight fit, so I'm using a universal joint at the end of my ratchet. And by taking the spark plugs, this lets us roll the engine over without any compression. So you're not trying to compress air in the cylinders when you're turning the engine over to get each cylinder to TDC for its valve lash adjustment. And there's the second spark plug out. As you can see, it still looks pretty new. Next, we're going to take the valve covers off. We'll grab some towel to catch any oil. Now the manual says to adjust these valves at room temperature. Now that's around 22 degrees, but the motor's making too much noise, the valves are making too much noise to lets the temperature cool down. It is, with the Humidex today, it's nearly 40 degrees Celsius. We'll adjust it the best as we can with the temperature that we have. So let's remove these valve covers. Get some tissue over here, just in case we have a spillage. There we go, that's all the bolts removed from both valve covers. I'm next going to use a soft dead blow hammer. We'll see, get these covers off. To our valves, there's our cylinder 1. We'll clean up the oil. Oh, and this one just pops straight off too. No need for the dead blow. We'll catch this oil that's fallen out. Now you can see we've got both the valve train covers off. This is the push rod system here, and this is the rocker arm. So now we have to rotate the engine so you can adjust the valves. So you want them at TDC, so you want it so all, at least one cylinder at a time, because they'll be working in a V, like this, in a V pattern. So you'll do one cylinder at a time, most likely. And to do that, there's an access port underneath the generator. Let's see if I can get you a good look at that. Now once you have all that apart, you want to look for this access hole. I may have said the crankshaft, but the flywheel bolt is up here on a 16mm. Always rotate it in a clockwise direction. And for that, I'll be using a 16mm on a 10-inch extension. So we'll have to turn the flywheel to get the valves on cylinder 1 loose. Well, not the valves, the valve rocker arms. So there's no tension on them. So we'll be on a compression stroke with both valves closed. And that way the push rods won't be pushing on the rocker arms. And then we can get our feeler gauge in there and adjust the valve lash. And if you need to know, the top rocker or top valve is the intake and the bottom one is the exhaust. So now the exhaust is opening. Both the push rods are loose. For cylinder 1. And now we're at cylinder 1. Time to check the valve lash. I'm going to start with the cylinder 1 intake. To do that, you need to turn the engine clockwise until cylinder 2 intake is at its highest lift. So let's select our feeler gauge. Get a 0.004 4/100ths of an inch. Just going to slide it in there. It's just going to be a little bit of drag you need. Let's check the next size up to see if that fits in. There we go, this is 0.005. That fits in, yeah, so this one here is too loose. So first you've got to undo the adjustment nut, the lock nut, which is the 10mm here, and then this is the adjustment piece underneath. It is turning at the same time, of course. So that there is too tight because I can't get the feeler gauge out. Don't worry if this takes you several goes, because it can be, especially if it's at a funny angle. See, look, I nipped it up and now I can't get my gauge in. It can be a tedious job. Yeah, that's loosened the whole thing off there. I'm going to now do it up with my handy dandy torque wrench. I've got it set for 9 Newton meters, but it's actually 8.5. There we go. It's got a little bit of drag. Check the next size up, see what that feels like. Yeah, that's too tight. So there we go. That one's now adjusted. Now we're going to move on to adjusting this one. So now we've got to roll the engine over until cylinder number 2 is at maximum adjustment. We're going to roll the engine over, until this valve on cylinder 2, the other side, is at maximum lift. There we go. Now the exhaust valve on cylinder 1 is loose, the rocker arm, sorry. That adjustment feels good. Just going to double check its torque. There we go, there's cylinder 1 adjusted. Now let's move on to the other cylinder and repeat. Now we're going to set the valve lash on cylinder 2. You can see it's okay, it's a little loose. Let's see when it starts getting too tight. Yeah, see, it's too loose at 0.008 double. That's my noisy one. So let's loosen this. There we go, 0.004 of an inch. Let's nip this up. Just recheck. Yeah, now we can't get the 0.008 800th of an inch. That's got a nice amount of drag to it. Got one left to do. There we go, we've now rolled the engine over on cylinder 1, the other cylinder, to the exhaust valve's maximum extension. So now we're going to do final adjustment. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's loose. This was the noisy bank. So hopefully I caught it just in time before I started wearing on components. Let's check it with a 0.008. Yeah, it's just got a bit of drag on there.
See, that's just a little bit too tight.
And this is obviously a job that's done by feel, so if you've adjusted valves before, this job will be a lot easier for you versus to if you haven't adjusted valves before. See, now I'm too tight for a 008. My 04 goes through quite well. Let's try a 06 just for shits. That won't fit. Let's try 0.5. Yeah, that doesn't fit either. That's very tight. So I believe we are there with that one too. Let's lock it down. And recheck. There we go. Bingo, bango, bongo. Our valves have now been adjusted, so now it's time to throw it all back together. Don't forget to put this little cover back for the flywheel access underneath. Now it's not so as important in my truck because it's not exposed to the external elements, but if your Onan generator is underneath an RV, then I would recommend not forgetting that piece of plastic. Now this isn't a genuine filter. Well, it says Onan. I believe it is. Yes, it is. But you can get it from Wix. I believe my oil filter is from Wix also. Now I do have a switch exterior to this to turn on the generator, or you can turn it on here. So when you run these, they say not to run them for less than 30 minutes at a time. They don't like being run for short, well, especially this one I've noticed, it doesn't like being run for short periods of time. So we just check my oil level. We are good. Right, let's see how she sounds, and then once I get it started, it's important to get the cover, the exterior cover, back on this. So there we go, there we have it. Hopefully you can still hear me over the generator. But that's how you adjust the valve lash on your Cummins Onan 5.5 kilowatt. I would greatly appreciate, if you enjoyed this how-to guide, then I'd greatly appreciate smashing that like button, comment, and you subscribe to the channel. All your growth is vastly appreciated. Okay. Alright, have yourselves a great day. Thank you for watching.